Hi, it's December 20th and it's pretty cold outside, windy, and we got some kind of storm moving in. I don't know, maybe it's the doomsday end of the world thing. But I thought today would be a really good day to make some comfort food. And one of my favorite comfort foods that I haven't done in a while is a really hearty beef stew. So let's make a really hearty beef stew. Okay, so I'm starting out with a really thick chunk of meat that I got out of my freezer. It looks to be about 2 inches thick. So I want 1-inch cubes, so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to cut this into 1 inch thick. I'm not really sure what cut this is. Like I said, it was just in the freezer. Not even sure what it weighs. It seems to be somewhere between 2 and 3 pounds. But sometimes we get it in bulk and just cut it down to size. And from here, all I'm going to do is I'm just going to cut it into like 1-inch chunks. You know, nice, coarse, you know, what you'd expect to find in a stew. So let's just go ahead and do that. And once I've got that cut up, I'm just going to coat them all with some flour and sear them in my pan here. This is going to take a little longer than I expected, so I'll just get right back when I'm done. Right, my meat's all chopped up, so now what I want to do is I want to just go ahead and put my pan on high and add a reasonable amount of olive oil for the browning process. I'm just going to cover the bottom up real good here. Not real deep or anything like that. You don't have to use that much, just enough to make sure that you get a good brown sear. Now I'm just adding a little all-purpose flour to a bowl here. I got about 3-4 tablespoons. I'm not sure if I'm going to need that much or not. But from here, just want to go ahead and coat all of the meat with flour. And I'm going to do this in a couple of batches because if you put too much, then your moisture comes out and you just get gray meat. Gray meat's not good, as far as I'm concerned. I mean, you could certainly do a stew if your meat turns out gray, but you get a little more flavor if you get a good hard sear on it. So let me just take these out, put them into another bowl, so I got a little bit more to make it 2 batches. And you just want to get them coated with flour because that flour is going to thicken up your broth. And you want this to be a stew and not a soup, so you just really need to flour everything up real good, get a nice consistency going. And let's see, my burner's set to, I've got a dual range burner. It can be small or it can be large. It's set on small, so I'm just going to go ahead and set it on large. So let me heat that up, and as soon as that's heated, I'll get right back. Alright, as you can see, my flame has just started to smoke a little bit, so I'm going to go ahead and drop my meat in. Get it all in there so I don't get a burn going on that oil. I'm going to turn on my fan because this is smoking pretty good right now. And now all I'm going to do is just let them crust up on each side. Once they develop a nice even crust, then I'm going to take them out and start the next batch. Alright, my first batch has a nice caramelized look to it. So I'm going to go ahead and take these out. Put them back on the plate. Got a lot of splattering happening here, so I got to back up the camera and I'll get the other batch going. Yeah, it started splattering pretty good, so I just went ahead and put a little bit of a lid over top, like so, to keep the splatters off of me and everywhere. And you can see how rich, dark caramelized these look. They got a real good crust to them, and they're going to go back in the stew here in a little bit. But let me just finish up this other batch, and then I'll show you how you deglaze the pan and start making your stew. All right, so my meat is all done, and I've just put it off on I've cleaned this bowl out and put it off in this clean bowl for right now. I've gone ahead and diced up my dirt berries here, what do you call them, potatoes, and I'm just going to put this right into the mix. The old, what I put that in, the oil and the drippings and everything, Don't even clean out and start over, because that's the good stuff you're going to want right there. We'll start with the potatoes, because they cook the longest. And we'll just give them a spin and let them get a little color going on. While I'm doing that, I'll go ahead and slice up my carrots. Now, I've made some pretty good size chunks on everything because I want to be fairly consistent, and this is going to be somewhat of a rustic stew. It's not going to be just a, little tiny bits. You're going to get a forkful in every bite, or a spoonful, depending upon how you're going there. Let me just speed up on this carrot because everything else is working pretty quick in here. And keep things moving so they don't stick. Now, there's going to be broth in this, and I didn't use a low sodium broth, so I'm going to be a little sparing on the salt. But you want a little salt in your vegetables because it helps to draw out the waters and the liquids, and that's going to help to deglaze this pan. Getting that going there. Then you give this a stir. Actually, it's a pretty hot burner, so I'm going to go ahead and turn it down. Plus it likes to retain heat. Let me get these last two carrots, and then I'll move on to my celery. And this is a really, it's fairly simple stew to make. You can make it on the stove, you can make it in a crock pot. There's a lot of ways you can go with it. But we're just going to do the stovetop version today. I might do a crock pot version in another episode. If you were going to do a crock pot version, I'll show you the point at where it probably would be good to go in. Because you're going to want a couple of hours. And I'm probably going to finish these off with some peas. Let me rinse these off because they seem a little dirty. Okay, my celery is rinsed. I'm just going to add that to the pan here if I get everything in focus. Give another stir. Now at any point here you can go ahead and add your liquids and your spices. Now for this I like to add a couple of bay leaves. Take the lid off of this. We're going to fish these out later because they'll never get soft or anything like that. But they add a nice little flavor note to it. And also you could add a little oregano or thyme. And I thought I had that sitting right here, but I don't. Oh, there you go. We're going to add just a little bit of fresh thyme is better, but dried thyme will work. And then, of course, you can always taste it as time goes by, no pun intended. Let me get my salt and pepper here. And I'm going to go ahead and add pepper. Fresh grind on that. It's starting to smell really good already. So, and as I said, I've got the sodium salt. I already added a little bit, but I think I could get away with a little bit more. The beef broth, you can use the low sodium. That's what they recommend in a lot of cooking shows and videos. I don't actually care one way or the other as far as whether my salt comes out of a shaker or whether it comes in my sodium beef broth. Now, what I've got here is, this is from Walmart. It's Oak Leaf Merlot, $2.99. It's actually pretty decent. I'm not going to use it all. I'm going to drink some, actually. I'm going to go ahead and add some of this to start deglazing the pan. Now, you can skip this and just go with beef broth, and you can even go with mix of beef broth and chicken broth. I've added, looks to be about 1.5 cups there. So that'll help deglaze all of the stuff on the bottom of the pan there. I'm going to give these a stir. Let them get going again. And now that I've done that, let's see, what am I missing? Worcestershire sauce. Okay, so I'm going to just give it a couple of dashes of Worcestershire at this point. Maybe a teaspoon and a half or something like that. Adds a little flavor. And you see I've got a slight boil going on this. Really smell that wine. Now all that alcohol will cook out because we're going to let this simmer for a couple of hours. And into that I'm going to add back my meat and all the meat juices. All that goes right back in there. What am I missing? Oh, I'm missing an onion. So let me dice up an onion and put that in there. And in the meantime, we'll let that start doing its thing. I'm going to go ahead and add a can of beef broth to that so that we've got a little moisture in there. And remember, that flour is going to thicken everything up and it's going to make it a real nice stew. So at this point, I'm just going to go ahead and get that onion ready and put it in there for you. Okay, I'm going to add this in. Now this would be something you would add in before you would add all those liquids. But since we're going to give this about a 2-hour boil, I think it's going to be fine. And let's get this other half in there. This will thicken up over time with the starchiness of the potatoes and all that flour that was used. It should thicken up nicely. So now we'll just take some garlic cloves, smash them out of their paper, put them. And I'm not even going to give these a fine mince. I'm just going to, oops, that's something flying. Just going to kind of chop them up a little bit, make sure I don't have any ends on them, like so, and then just run a knife through it like that, and drop it on in there. Now I think I need a little more liquid, so I'm going with a little more wine to begin with. I'll give it like so. Give it a nice luxurious feel. And I might add a cup of water as well. Yeah, just about cover everything. Get everything going back up to a boil. Turn this heat up. And then once I've got it boiling, what I want to do is I just want to turn everything down and let it simmer real slowly for about 2 hours, 2 to 2.5 hours. And we'll just come back on it and check on it from time to time. Make sure it's the right consistency. We'll taste test it along the way after about an hour or so once everything calms down. But the reason for the 2 hours is to make all the connective tissues in the meat break down and make it just really, really nice and edible. But that's where it starts. So we'll check back in quite a while and let you know how things are going. Well, my stew's been cooking for a little while now. I don't even know if I'm in the frame. But anyway, yeah, for some reason, I just can't even taste the wine in it anymore. Don't know why. I don't know. This video might be inspired by Hannah's Drunk Kitchen and Epic Mealtime, who like to do this while they cook. Go check them out. You can find them on YouTube very easily. But anyway, yeah, this is a delicious beef stew, and it'll be ready in about 2 hours. Alright, my stew's been going for about 2 hours now, and although it hasn't thickened to a real thick gravy consistency, it's thickened up some, and I'm going to call that enough. If I wanted to make it thicker, I could add butter and flour and make sure the flour cooked. So I'm going to go ahead and retrieve my bay leaves. I think I put 3 in there. So I found 3, so that's good. Now I've got my frozen peas. I'm going to go ahead and add those. And what I found with my peas is when I opened them, they had just a little bit of freezer burn on them, so I put them in here and rinsed them off real good. So I'm just going to put these in, let them warm up a little bit. Go ahead and shake just a little bit more salt in there. Now if you had parsley would be good for this. I don't actually have parsley, but what I do have is I have some parsley flakes. So I'm going to add a little bit of parsley flakes to it for a little bit of final flavor and texture. And then we're going to go ahead and put this on a plate in just a minute. Now, before we got to the peas and everything, if you wanted to finish this in a crock pot, that's where you would have put it for where the video had ended before I gave it the 2.5 hours. You could have put it in a crock pot for, I want to say 4 hours at high. There's my clock going for 6 o'clock. I want to say 4 hours at high or 8 hours at low, up to 8 hours. And it would come out just fine. I had it covered. It would probably be a little bit thicker if I had not covered it. But I had it covered the whole time. And let's go ahead and plate some out. Now you can totally remove the potato peels if you want to. I decided to leave them in place. So I'm going to put a little more of the juice on there. Another piece of that. Since we're going to sit down and eat, I'll just take a little bit here. And let me get a spoon. Just go in for a little piece of this meat. Nice and hot. Man, for a cold, blustery day like it is outside, I'm telling you guys, this is perfect. And since the end of the world is tomorrow, we're not going to finish all this tonight. But I don't think the end of the world is actually happening, so we're just going to go ahead and freeze it up. What we don't finish, we're just going to portion it into, you know, nice serving sizes for the next time and put it in the freezer. Well, there you go. Thank you very much for watching. Please comment, rate, subscribe if you make this. Let me know how it turned out. And we'll catch you in the next video.